Okay, so the last thing that we've got to talk about with lines of best fit is what does their intercept, their y-intercept, and what does their slope actually mean in regards to the problem. So when we're talking about the y-intercept, this is where graphically the line of best fit would go across the y-axis. Now, what this does in explanation is the value of x at the y-axis is 0. So this is what, whatever the y value is, this is what that value would take on if x was 0, okay? So when we are talking about so I'm going to go back to the house example here, and I'm getting the equation written down for us, okay? So when we're talking about the y-intercept, and so they had presented it this way, we have also seen this done in our format. Okay, now either way, we're talking about this is our y-intercept, and it doesn't matter if they plug it up here at the front or back here, it's the one that doesn't have the x associated with it. Now, what this is saying is if the square footage was 0, okay, so now we're not talking about the house wall, we're talking more about the land value and stuff like that. For this particular scenario, we're saying, because this was done in thousands, that this would be 160,000 and some change if there was no on that property. Okay, so that's giving us the idea of there is no square footage. What does this now represent? And it's kind of that startup. So in the case where we're talking about the house with the land, this is now representing the land portion of this. Okay, so now if we're going to talk about the slope, okay, and what does the slope represent? This is the amount of change in the y value for one additional increase in x, okay? So if we were talking about this, again, in terms of our house example, okay? So this is now this slope, okay? So this is our slope, okay? If our square footage goes up by 1, then our price will go up by 0.0992. Now, again, remember that this is in thousands. So increase per square foot, okay? Now, so if we were talking about identical properties, side by side, there wasn't anything better than one or the other, the change in square footage and the price would then be entirely dictated by this one, okay? So seeing that increase in square footage, that is what's causing the increase in price. So again, the slope is the increase or decrease if it was negative, but in this case it's positive, per square foot. So it's the amount of change for when x goes up by 1.